Breaking tonight, new fallout after President Obama takes to the microphone in Paris, urging world leaders to combat the threat of climate change. That comes just 2 weeks after the city was ravaged by terror. The president characterized the climate summit as an act of defiance in the wake of those attacks. But his comments at the conference have led to questions about the president's priorities. Watch this.
How does he prioritize this, or how does he see this in comparison with the challenge of fighting terrorism? Is it as great a challenge, as important a priority as the fight against terrorism, or maybe greater because of ultimately the stakes at play? I mean, where does he see it?
Well, they're both critically important, and we have to do both at the same time. And they pose different threats. Obviously, there is an immediate threat from terrorism that has to be dealt with to protect the American people. I think over the long term, clearly we see the potential for climate change to pose severe risks to the entire world. And so it's a threat that has to be.
So a greater threat long term?
I'm not gonna rank them because they're different. And you have to do, again, several things at once.
Pete Hegseth is a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. He's also a Fox News contributor. Mark Hanna served as a campaign aide during the Obama and Kerry presidential campaigns. Good to see you both.
Hey, Megan.
He doesn't want to rank them, Pete. He declined to rank climate change versus terror.
Well, he's declined to rank it because he knows when it comes off his lips how absurd it sounds. However, this administration has already ranked them. This president has talked about climate change being the single greatest threat they face. He talks in militaristic language about deterring the enemy in Paris 2 weeks after an attack, except, oh, it's climate change, because climate change is the perfect enemy for President Obama. There's no face, there's no moral distinctions, whether it's hot or it's cold, you're always fighting. There's no bullets involved, and the solution is automatically more big government, big international schemes, and that's what he's there to do. I mean, they know how absurd it sounds, but they're ideologically, in the left, committed to climate change.
Mark, he can't rank them? Really? He can't put the importance of defeating ISIS above climate change?
That's like what's saying worse, murder or starvation. What's better, freedom or justice?
Really?
I mean, these are big concepts. These are both very serious threats that we face. That don't listen
even
to
if you agree with that. The American public is squarely opposed to them on this. If you look at the polls, terror is #1 in terms of the importance to the American people.
Sure.
And climate change is way down here. Look at this. Terrorism, 24. Climate change, 3.
Why is the president talking about climate change? Is because he was invited by the French people to come to Paris to talk about climate change. He's at a climate change
conference. He can talk about climate change.
Right.
But let's not equate them as we're standing in the city where hundreds of people, over 100 people were murdered 2 weeks ago.
Sure. And so he has an obligation to talk about terrorism, the threat of terrorism. He did that. He has an obligation to fight the war on ISIS, which is what he's doing. He's bombing. There have been 8,000 airstrikes in the past year against ISIS targets. We've killed over 20,000 ISIS fighters, but that doesn't mean we can't at the same time do what Pope Francis is asking us to do what the Pentagon is asking us to do. They realized that the conditions of climate change are politically creating political instability in the Middle East. If you don't think ISIS has anything to do with climate change,
are you saying climate change causes ISIS?
I'm about to give you some red meat, Pete.
Well, he's saying ISIS has to do with climate change.
I'm saying the drought in Syria that lasted from 2007 to 2010 created instability, and so these things aren't too unrelated. I'll give Pete that. Go ahead, Pete. Take it away.
Well, no, that is exactly the talking point of the left and will continue to be, because they have no ideological way to confront radicalism.
Hey, it's Pete's turn.
Pete, you served in the military. I don't know what rank you were, but Admiral David Titley is telling us that. He's saying,
well, you can,
this is a family show.
You can pluck an admiral here or there.
It's Pete's turn. Go ahead, Pete.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, the point is that this is what the left has done and will do in ad nauseum, is because they're unwilling to actually fervently fight radical Islam, call the threat for what it is. They have to then find something else that they're comfortable with.
We're bombing them to kingdom come.
No, you're not. You're using body counts and sortie numbers to talk about an obligation the president feels he has against ISIS. If he was really committed, he would talk about the resolve we have in Mosul or in Raqqa or in Sirte, Libya, where Islamists are forming their caliphate to strike us in the West. Instead, he's talking passionately about the weather as if the weather is what caused ISIS. It's just like, You know
it doesn't
what?
pose
That
an
is how they see
existential
it.
threat. And this is what's, I mean, there's a political dimension to this, too, because more than twice as many voters in critical swing states of Colorado, Virginia, Iowa, states that Republicans need to win, know that climate change is man-made and that it poses an existential
you think they
threat
think it
to
causes
us.
terrorism?
This is no, but Pete,
It's why they attack us?
Pete, if you don't think climate change has, this is the Pentagon that says climate change.
I don't agree with everything our Pentagon's doing right now.
Okay, well, you can second guess your commander-in-chief all you want on national television.
It was Chuck Hagel who acknowledged
a
the
Republican
importance of
defense
climate change.
secretary who said that.
I gotta go. Good to see you both.
Good to see you, Megan.
Thanks.
Also tonight, after weeks of watching protests where college students are more worried about feelings than free speech, a college president says he's had enough. And we've got his story tonight. Plus, Donald Trump is pushing back against claims that he mocked a reporter's birth defect. Steve Hayes and former Trump advisor Roger Stone are here on that next.